I lost my sister, Joyce, my son Stephen, and my daughter Chantal to acts of murder and manslaughter. In 1998, my sister Joyce was the victim of domestic violence. Joyce lay dying in intensive care of multiple injuries. If that wasn't enough for me to deal with at the sad loss of your sister, in 2000, my son Stephen, who was 31, his life was taken by a female friend that had gone into his flat one evening where he had been celebrating his friend's birthday. She snuffed out my Stephen's life just because she wanted to. Stephen was 6'1" tall, with very dark hair, and was very handsome. He was the rock in our household. When myself and my other 4 children arrived at the hospital, we went into a side ward, and there lay my Stephen, looking as if he was just asleep. All I could hear in the background was the unmerciful screams of my remaining 4 children. When I went to the doorway of that room, I looked out and saw my 4 children, broken, on their knees on the floor. Chantal in particular was screaming so loud, I couldn't go to them. As a mother, I felt inadequate, because I knew I couldn't ease their pain. 3.5 years was not enough for what she'd done to my son. I knew then I had to do something and not just sit back. So I wrote to London. I wrote to the Houses of Parliament. I wrote to the Judiciary. I wrote to the Prime Minister. I even wrote to the European Court of Human Rights. Then, as I was going along, trying to make sense of what had happened, Chantal went missing in 2004. I searched for 19 months up and down this country. I give interviews on Sky News and BBC 24 News, and a photograph was on milk cartons. Chantal has 3 children. In all the 19 months I searched for my daughter, I told her children I would not stop till I found out what happened to their mother. I wanted my daughter back. Christmas came and Christmas went. Still no sign of Chantal. Then there was a breakthrough. The 7/7 bombings went off in London. In retaliation, an ex-army person called Stephen Wynne set fire to a mosque, leaving behind his DNA. That was put through the system, and his name came up. His house was surrounded by armed police. Stephen Wynne was arrested and taken to the local police station, where he was questioned. While he was there, other police officers searched his home, where he lived alone. They found a letter that he'd written about a girl. And in that letter, he said that the girl was dead. The police asked him, did he know anything about the girl that had been missing locally called Chantal Taylor? He said he knew that she was dead. It was then that the story unfolded. He changed his story 3 times. What Stephen Wynne had actually done was met my daughter at a garage round the corner from her home and took her in a taxi back to his home. Chantal knew Stephen Wynne because they were in the same class together in secondary school. When she went inside Stephen Wynne's home, it was there then. The horrificness of the killing, what he'd done to my daughter, was unimaginable. He showed my daughter no mercy. And I have never found my daughter's body from that day to this, even although on DNA evidence alone, Stephen Wynne was charged with murder. When the judge uttered the words, "You'll go to prison," and gave the amount of time, I was devastated. 21 years. He then goes to the appeal courts and had it lowered to 18. That was an insult to my daughter, an insult to her children, and an insult to her family. As I looked into Stephen Wynn's face, in my mind I promised this: I will never stop now fighting for justice. The message was clear. Life should mean life for murder with intent, and tougher sentences for manslaughter. Enough for me was enough, but I was not going to allow myself to become a victim. So I gathered those 35,000 signatures and put an advertisement in the Liverpool Echo for others to join me if they felt as I did, that in this country the deterrent and respect for human life has been lost slowly over the years by governments who thought they knew. I educated myself slightly about the law and how it works. I was shocked and disgusted. From that advertisement in the Liverpool Echo, other families joined me. From that march in London and those 35,000 signatures that myself and a man called John Johnson handed in to Downing Street. John Johnson had lost his son to a knife killing. When we returned from that journey, I asked those families, should we meet on a regular basis and keep our fight up in our campaign? And we will then become a group. They agreed. And from then on, Families Fighting for Justice was born. This isn't about me. This isn't about us. It's too late for me. It's too late for us. This is about our future, our younger generation, so they can walk the streets freely or go out on a night out without being in fear of being beaten by a gang or a group or knifed just because they want to go out on a night out. We've got to put the deterrent back in this country. And I won't stop the fight until the deterrent's put back and justice is served for taking someone's life. I will always campaign and work alongside those that can make change. I won't stop until change comes. I strongly believe change will come.